Hi, I'm Kylie, just another Army vet. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad you're here. Today, I'm starting a video reaction series on Major Vivek Jacob of Indian Army 9 Para SF. I've already reacted to his Special Forces Mindset and Attitude video, so now I'm going to react to his Combat Survival and Special Forces Mindset podcast. This will be part one of a multi-part series since the podcast is so long. Let's get to it.
Many Indians consider Major Vivek Jacob to be one of the most legendary modern-day figures of the Indian Army. He's a veteran of the Indian Para SF. The Indian Para SF itself is considered to be the most advanced part of the Indian Army. And on a worldwide scale, the Indian Para SF is looked at as one of the most respected regiments of any army anywhere in the world. And the experiences he's had, the stories of combat, the intensity of combat, the extreme combat situations that he has seen are something that will stay with you forever. This is part one of our episode with Major Vivek Jacob. So many stories, so many experiences, so many mentality pieces to share with you. We couldn't even encapsulate all of it into two parts of this chat with Major Vivek Jacob. This is just part one, about his tenure with the Indian Army. Part two is about what he's doing now with his organization CLAW. But here's part one. His past, everything he learned, some of his most intense moments brought to you on the Ranveer Show.
Definitely knows how to sell someone.
Namaste everyone. Welcome to an extremely special episode of the Ranveer Show. Sir, absolute honor having you here. Let me tell you before we begin.
Looks like he's meeting his hero.
Very requested episode right from the time we started. We have Indian Army veteran Major Vivek Jacob
seems so excited.
of the Indian Special Forces. So, honor having you here.
Ditto, yeah, same.
Did I introduce you right? Because when it comes to the Indian Army, the Aam Janta, the public doesn't understand the way it's regimented, the way the army is like divided. People don't understand what the paramilitary is versus what the Indian Army is. So, of course, we'll touch upon those points, but this podcast is primarily about your story, everything that you're doing with CLAW, with Operation Blue Freedom. We'll touch upon all those topics, sir. But I'd like to actually begin with your own story. Like after the NDA, everyone knows the journey till the NDA. What happens after that? How does the Indian Army get divided?
So it all begins before you get into NDA, basically.
So the National Defense Academy.
People have, they want to join Air Force or
I
Army
think it's similar
or
to
Navy.
like West Point or
Mostly
the
it's
Naval
like that.
Academy kind of.
They already have like preconceived, and some people are slightly on survival mode and all that. They need to just get into the armed forces or something like that and then figure it out from there. A lot of people don't know what it's all about. So for them, there's not much of difference between an Army, Navy or an Air Force. Some people are like that as well. But once you opt like that. So you're, when you go through the merit and all those various stages which are there to enter into the NDA, you're classified into Army, Navy, Air Force. You come like a cadet like that from there only. So then till the fourth term of NDA, you are trained similarly. You all go through, whether you're Army, Navy, Air Force cadets, you go through the same training till the fourth term. Fifth term, sixth term is when, at least that's how it was in my time. I don't know what it's like right now. But when you come to the fifth term, you divide into specialized subjects towards the Navy, towards the Air Force, towards the Army. Like the Air Force guys start flying, they start getting taught how to fly gliders. And then
When did he retire?
The Navy guys go into navigation and stuff like that, of map reading at sea and stuff. And the Army guys go into weapon training and things like that, which are more akin to the Army kind of a job.
Yes,
So when we finish off with all this training, from NDA itself, we divide out. The Navy guys go to the Naval Academy, the Air Force guys go to the Air Force Academy, the Army guys go to Indian Military Academy. Then we spend about a year there in our various academies, and then we get commissioned and go into our various services. I went into the Army, I chose the Army, went into the Army, and after NDA, I went to IMA. In IMA, when you're completing a year and you're about to get commissioned, there is a place where you have to opt for which particular regiment in the Army you would like to go to.
And what is that based on? Like, what are the different options?
Okay.
What goes on in your head?
I know at the American Service Academies, like West Point, Naval Academy, Coast Guard Academy, and the Air Force Academy, in their final year, they can choose what branch they want to go into, such as engineer, infantry, aviation, etc., and they do it by an order of merit list. So whoever's had the best grades in leadership and all that good stuff, they'll get first choice if there's available slots, of course. It sounds like that's kind of what he's talking about. Let's see.
So for there is a merit list which is prepared at the end of your training in Indian Military Academy. It is prepared during your adjudged and in your service subjects, in your physical performance, in your sports and games, in your leadership qualities, etc., etc., etc. And then you are placed into a merit depending on your total number of points that you have. So there is something called a super block and there's something called a power block. So, and everybody else in between. So super block is the first 10 guys. I don't even remember, it's first 10 or first 20 or something like that. They are the
How
super
many
block.
people are
They
in
are
each
the top
class?
merit in the course.
I
and
wonder.
they get to choose where they want to go.
The
Provided there is a
classes
vacancy, but mostly vacancies
at
are
West
there. So they
Point,
get to choose. Some
etc.,
people
are
opt
pretty
for
large. So.
engineers, some people opt for, like technical arms or for the infantry or for the special forces. It's like that. So the first 20 guys get to choose what they want. The next of the guys, they also get to choose what they want. But, depending on the kind of vacancy,
This sounds
it depends
similar.
where you go. And then there's the power block. So the power block is apparently the lowest in merit. And they also choose what they want, but then depending on the kind of vacancies, they get what is best available. Yeah. The overall logic behind all of this grading and spreading out is that equal amount of balanced personalities, talent has to go into all regiments. So you'll find a super block guy going to the same place, and you will find a power block guy also going to the same regiment. But the special forces guys, they choose. You have to volunteer for special forces. Yeah, you have to sign a volunteer form.
Same thing with the U.S. military.
You get three
have to
options: option
volunteer.
1, option 2, option 3. Every guy gets 3 options. So like that.
So like again, the Indian Special Forces, for someone who knows about the army, it's considered okay. This is like the most, for lack of a better word, badass part of the army. Aam Janta doesn't really understand what Special Forces entails. Could you expand a little bit on that? Because I'll tell you what perspective I'm coming from. We see so much about US Navy SEALs, US Marines, and because of the media in Hollywood and all, it's projected like, oh, these guys are the most badass MFers in the world. And here we have the Indian Special Forces who are probably even more badass because of the kind of terrain we have in India, because of all the different kinds of operations that the Indian Army deals with. And there's not much about that out there. And I know it's going to change in the next 10, 20 years, sir. But if the change had to begin with this question, how would you introduce the Indian Special Forces to the Indian audiences?
So this whole perception of what Special Forces is, very understandably, because people who are not in Special Forces, who have not experienced what the job is, have not gone through the training, who have not gone through the combat experiences, etc., would like to delve into who is more, who is less, who is better, who is more this or that. But actually people who are actually in the Special Forces know that there's a certain kind of mindset. You'll find a lot of people in the Special Forces who are not there. Right?
You mean not up to the mark?
Yeah. Not up to the mark. Yeah, definitely they don't have what it takes to deliver what is required in combat.
From a mentality perspective.
Yes, it's all what you do finally when the shit is flying. That's what makes you Special Forces. You can wear any fancy uniform and you can carry any fancy weapon and all sorts of daggers and grenades and fly all sorts of drones and all sorts of UAVs and all sorts of jazz. You can have at your disposal. But if you don't have that instinct to explore and to handle what you find when you're exploring, then it's you're not there. So all special.
Essentially what he's saying is that you can be the best trained Special Forces soldier out there, have all the latest technology and equipment, but if you don't know what to do when the shit hits the fan, then you don't have it.
Special Forces across the world, the people who are there, who are going through those experiences, who have chosen those experiences, we choose what we experience constantly. So we are the same, yeah. It's the same exploratory spirit which is transferred into your brain and generates thoughts, and you act like that on the ground. And in some way you have let go so you can explore. That's the special forces mindset. And that is shared by all special forces across the globe. It's like that. And in some previous podcasts also I had mentioned, like if you send me naked on a mountain, like, like that when I say me, I'm talking about the special forces spirit, right? You send me naked in a mountain and you leave me there, I'll get back. And I'll go and do what needs to be done. Because I've chosen that experience. So that's where the spirit comes from.
Again, he's about no excuses.
Where you are not satisfied with what is there. You want to know more. You want to explore more. And in the quest of that exploration, special forces is extreme. Because you're constantly placing your life on the line. So when you're placing your life on the line, you're going to circumstances and situations where you're placing your own life on the line, and your life connected with all the attachments you've got with the rest of what is behind you, your children, your mother, father, brother, sister, love of your life, etc., right? When you're able to put all of that there and then stand on the cutting edges of life and death, you will find. And that's a constant process, constantly going through that. So that's basically exploration. Yeah.
Again, like I know that, an army man wouldn't like me saying that, but again, this is just for the Aam Janta. This is the closest the real life gets to a Rambo or a highest wing of the military, where special forces are sent in, functionally speaking, when there is a difficult job to be done or a very important job to be done. Would the Indian Army send in special forces?
So it's not that there's any job which is difficult or which is easy or whatever, and then special forces are sent to do the impossible and things like that. It's just a matter of efficiency. That is all.
Got it.
Efficiency. So there are certain kind of tasks, certain kind of roles in national security within and without the national boundaries of your particular nation, whichever you may be from, where the powers that be, let's say the government or the armed forces who are operating in various theaters, they decide that, okay, this needs to be done and it needs to be done in this manner. And they've got a variety of, surgical instruments or, hammers, if you want to call them, or whatever. So which they choose that, okay, this job requires to be done in this way. This requires the artillery to come in. This requires the armored corps to come in. This requires the infantry to come in. This requires the missile regiments to come in. This requires the air force to do it. This requires the special forces to do it. It's like that. So everyone is specializing in their job. We are just specializing in what we have been collected to do.
Yeah.
And organized, collected, inspired, and shot out to do.
Essentially, you wouldn't call in 9 Para SF to recover a ship from pirates. You would call them Marcos, or the United States would call them Navy SEALs. You wouldn't send the Space Force to do some bombing mission.
Yeah.
So I've again hung around you guys for the last 2-3 days. I've seen the way you talk even at Claw. And of course, we're going to come to Claw.
No, you have not seen it.
I mean, I've seen a bit of it. I've had some glimpses, and I've had deep conversations with Major Arun as well. One thing I've noticed is that y'all focus a lot on teamwork, which is the obvious thing. I'm sure that's the obvious skill that gets polished through the course of going through the army. The other thing I'd really highlight is efficiency. You guys constantly ask questions about processes and ask yourself how things can be improved. So that's one thing I've noticed. Secondly, sir, I got to bring this conversation to you on a very individual level. The podcast, and we've had deep conversations about meditation. It allows the meditator or the podcaster to psychoanalyze fairly well. And I know that you guys psychoanalyze people well as well. That's a part of your job profile. But when I psychoanalyze you, so I feel like there's been 3 versions of you. One,
when I think of meditation, I think of Buddhism. I don't really think of any other religions. My question is this: how big is meditation in Indian culture or in Hinduism today? Is that a big thing, or is that slowly going out the wayside as Western culture starts encroaching into the East?
Before, the army started, when you were studying for it. The second is the guy who finished his term with the special forces and who took that call about, okay, now I want to change things up. Now let's take another roller coaster. Let's jump from this one to another one. And the third one would be the guy you are right now, who is still evolving, and there's probably going to be a 4th, 5th, 6th one. Might be an entrepreneur, might be someone who runs a personal brand, might be an online persona, might be just a purpose-driven person, might be a spiritual person.
He would be a good
whatever you are right
online persona.
But I've seen these three distinct versions of you, and often when I speak to podcast guests, I can see a certain level of their life, especially when they open up this much on the show. A part of you, sir, I just feel like you've seen so many layers of things that it will take 10 podcasts to unlock everything you've seen. So I'd actually love for you to highlight that journey. Especially, I know there's going to be more mindsets, but would you agree with me when I say that till this point you've had 3 or max 4 different kinds of mindsets in your own life? You had that self-evolution thrice or 4 times.
So it's what I have understood again. Whatever I say is my perception. I am as imperfect as everyone else and as perfect as everyone else.
See,
so
he's
my
humble,
perception of
and I like
my
that.
experiences and my understanding, and maybe my past lives and something like that exists or whatever. So the thing is that what I understood is that there are 3 levels of consciousness at a baseline. That is a follower, a leader, and an explorer. So you can very easily classify people into these 3 categories. People who follow, who like to follow something that makes sense to them. People who like to lead people because that makes sense to them. And then there are people who don't care about who's following or who's leading. They are on their own trip, right? They're exploring what it means to be themselves, to be alive, and to have a choice, right? So all human beings at various stages in their life are existing in all these 3 spheres of following, leading, and exploring.
I agree with that.
For example, me. Every day I'm following someone, I'm leading someone, and I'm on my own trip as well. I'm exploring. So it's like that. So you shift consciousnesses, or you shift in the level of your perception of what is going around you outside and what is going around inside of you at various stages. Depending on where you are, you will.
I definitely agree with that. Even being a high-ranking officer or NCO in the military, you're still going to be following someone. Yes, you are leading, but there is someone who's above you who's also calling some shots as well.
Be functioning as such. So yeah, there will be shifts and all that. All these shifts are there, but actually what is there? There is only pure consciousness. Actually, that is only there, right? So it's that pure consciousness which is trying to find out itself, right? Trying to understand itself, realize itself, so it can be free, right? And reach a level of vibration where it is in bliss forever, if you want to, call it like that. So yeah, so if I look at myself, if I look back at my life and I see my consciousness level or my awareness levels and what drove me towards certain actions, certain choices in life, and now where I am, where I was 10 years from now, 5 years from now, and where I'm going to be tomorrow as well. There are these shifting consciousnesses or awareness levels, etc. But there is one single thing which is constant throughout, and that is a spirit to be free, a spirit to be free. Yeah, if you just want to crunch it, a spirit to be free. Now that spirit to be free manifests itself in our life in these 3 levels. Sometimes you're following to learn something, you'll meet some guru, or you'll meet some, you'll have a commanding officer in the army or somebody you look up to and you'll follow him by choice or because of circumstances or whatever. And then you'll be placed in a leadership role.
Yes, sometimes you have to follow bad leaders. It's not really your choice, but you're kind of being forced to do it. Yeah, that happens a lot in the military. There are a lot of toxic leaders.
Everybody is in a leadership role in some way or the other. And then you are at an exploratory stage also constantly. Now where your consciousness is operating at that point of time, whether it is at a follower stage or a leader stage or at an exploratory stage, at that particular moment is where you are. And then there is a general overall perception of a human being of his own life. And in my case, that's like a rocket, just want to fly off. Yeah. Just reach what we already are. It's just that journey of raising your awareness levels. That's it.
The other video of his, the Special Forces Mindset and Attitude, was a really good video, but it only showed clips of this podcast. But I'm really glad that I'm getting to sit down and actually watch the whole thing, get a better understanding of who he is exactly. I'm already starting to believe that this is like India's version of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. So we'll see. If part 2 of this podcast is filmed, you can always check out the video right here. If not, then there'll be another good one for you to check out. Thanks for watching.